Hey guys, Ignocia here again. Today I'm gonna show you a Warlock Tanking guide. And yes, I said it, a tanking guide. I know that you might say that Warlocks are not viable for tanking at all, but that's not true. Actually, they have so much absorbs, cooldowns, self-healing, damage reduction and stuff like that, that they are actually viable as a tank just as Druids, Death Knight, Warriors, Paladins are. So yeah, here I'm gonna show you how to tank as a warlock. Okay, so first of all we wanna talk about glyphs and talents. I'm gonna start out with glyphs. First of all, the most important glyph for warlock tanking is glyph of demon hunting. This is the main thing for warlock tanks. You want this because this is the same as, for example, defensive stance as a warrior. The other glyphs is Siphon Life, which is just a passive healing, pretty good, and Imp Swarm, Glyph of Imp Swarm. In next patch 5.2 we will swap Siphon Life most likely into Glyph of Drain Life, I think it's called, which does so that Drain Life heals you for 50% more than before. But right now in 5.1 we take these talents, these glyphs. The other glyphs are optional, basically. So talents. I choose Harvest Life because I found myself using Drain Life a lot, and I found out that Harvest Life is not only an AoE Drain Life, it also makes single target Drain Lifing, like it does so that you heal yourself bigger. For example, normal Drain Life heals you for 15k per tick, and Harvest Life heals you for about 20k per tick. So I choose Harvest Life over the other choose. Mortal Coil is basically just a good self heal, so it heals you for around 100k, 70k to 100k. So yeah, that's the most optional. That's the most common to take. Next time is Sacrificial Pact. You can either take Sacrificial Pact or Dark Bargain, but I prefer Sacrificial Pact because it's a 1 minute cooldown, and it absorbs right now unbuffed. It absorbs 280k. It scales on your health and it scales on your spell power. So that's pretty OP every minute to do that. Next tire, it's totally it's totally personal choice because you don't really need any of them, but some encounters needs them. So yeah, you choose which one to take. Next time I took Grimoire Supremacy because I like to make my pet tank some mobs as well. For example, in dungeons, if I have to tank 3 mobs, I could let my pet tank one of them, so that the damage is split. And with Grimoire Supremacy, my pet has more health and deals more damage. We could also take Grimoire Service to regenerate more Fury and have a bigger burst, but I prefer Supremacy. Sacrifice is not really viable for tanks because you can't use Sacrificial Pact without a pet. Or you can use it, but you will steal your own health, which is not that good. I took Jaden's Cunning in the last tire because I like to run. Like if I need to place the boss or the mob another place than where I stood, I can still cast or channel Harvest Life. So that was it for the talents and glyphs. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the rotation, or more like the priority lists. Okay, so first of all, you want to download Weak Hours. This is the best add-on in my opinion to track Fury Ward and Hour of Enfeeblement. Now I'm just gonna show you what those two abilities does. Fury Ward, it gives you an 80k, almost 80k absorb shield with a 10-second recharge cooldown. When I say recharge cooldown, it means that it has 2 stacks, and if you use one of them, you can use one more right after. If you use one of them, wait 10 seconds, use one of them, you can still use one after. So you have 2 stacks, and there's 10-second cooldown on both of them. This scales on your health and your spell power, so that means fully buffed it will probably absorb up to 100 to 150k. That's pretty OP basically, and you want to keep close to 100% uptime on it. Use it every time you can. Aura of Enfeeblement. Just gonna find it. There it is. Does so that 20 yards around you, every enemy will deal 20% reduced physical damage to you, and casters will cast 50% slower. You want to keep 100% uptime on this, of course. It's an aura on yourself that does so everyone around you will take this effect. So that's it for those two abilities. Now, when you're in combat, you want to keep your corruption up full time, and you want to use Imp Swarm and Dark Soul Knowledge off cooldown. You want to use Demonic Slash as the biggest priority from now on, and then Hand of Gul'dan. When all of this is on cooldown, you want to refresh Fury Ward, and if that is already refreshed, you want to use Harvest Life. Now I'm just going to show you how I'm doing. So yeah, now I'm going to put up this, and use my Hand of Gul'dan, and now I use Drain Soul, Drain Life, or Harvest Life, or whatever, because there's nothing really else I can do. About my Molten Core procs, I don't really like to use Soulfire because it takes a lot of your Demonic Fury. And when you got almost full Demonic Fury and you already got your two things up, you can use Immolation Aura if you want. So yeah. And that's basically it for how you play when you're in combat. Okay, now I'm just gonna talk about how you wanna take aggro if one of your DPS or something else takes aggro from you and you want to get it. Many people think that Warlocks doesn't have a taunt and that makes them unavailable for tanking. But actually, when you go into this form, Dark Apotheosis, I guess it's called, you get a spell called Provocation, which works exactly like a taunt. Yeah, basically exactly like a taunt with 8-second cooldown. So that's all for it. And if you are pulling, for example, in a dungeon, if you want to pull like a lot of packs, and you see that your healer can't really keep up with the damage you take, and you don't have any cooldowns left, for example, if you don't have Unending Resolve, which does so that you take 40% less damage, by the way, which is a really good cooldown, you can kite, and Warlocks have really good kite materials. First of all, they got a pushback Carrion Swarm, which has a really huge range. You can actually stand here and use it. As you see, I hit them, and that will push them back. And when they come close to you, you can jump away with... Oh no, I jumped up in the air. But demonically, you have to run forward to use it. Otherwise, you will just jump up in the air, as you just saw. So yeah, that way you can basically kite forever, because the cooldowns are not that big. As you can see, I can push back already, and I can already jump again. So yeah, kiting material really good. They have huge absorb shields, Fury Ward and Sacrificial Pact. They got a taunt. They got huge self heal. Yeah. So, and in the top of everything, they got 500% threat regeneration increased, as every other tank does as well. And we deal about the same amount of damage as other tanks. So basically, you take aggro as good as they do. There's only one thing that is not as good for Warlock tanks, and that is that you don't have Vengeance as other tanks. So yeah, that's the only bad thing about it. You don't have any Vengeance. So yeah, that's it for the spells and stuff like that. Okay, now you may want to say that it's maybe some good absorbs and it's maybe some good damage reduction we got, but we will still take high damage and we will still die fast. But no, I've already tried to tank a normal raid, Mokushan Waltz, and I was even more tanky than a 495 eye level warrior tank was in that run. Basically he died more than I did. He took way more damage than I did, and he took way more healing than I did. Maybe he didn't play as good than other warriors may do, but still. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about reforging and gemming as a Warlock tank. I do not show you how I gem my gear or reforge my gear into tanking, because right now I am spec'd for Affliction. I'm gemmed and reforged for Affliction, and I'm not gonna change it, but I'm still gonna explain you how it's done. Basically, you want to put as much stamina in your gear as possible. You want to put, even though you don't get the bonus, you want to put like as much stamina as you can. You still, if you can, want to get the socket bonus, because mastery does so you take less damage, and intellect does so that you get higher absorb shields. Crit and haste and such like that, you don't really need it, because you already got enough demonic fury recon, and you don't need the crit for extra DPS as your tank. So as much intellect as you can, which makes... No, intellect and stamina, you have to just stack that, so that you can get some higher absorb shields. That's basically it. For reforging, you want to reforge as much as you can into mastery. You want as much mastery as possible, because the more mastery you have, the more damage reduction your Dark Apotheosis will give you, and the more mastery. No, mastery doesn't scale on anything else actually, survival wise for Warlock Tanking. But that's basically it. You want as much stamina gemming in your gear as possible, and you want the same enchants as a tank uses. You don't want dodge and parry, because I tried it and I didn't really dodge and parry too much. So I prefer having a lot of stamina and a lot of mastery. Yeah, so that's basically it. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you a dungeon where I am tanking. Actually, I wanted to show you a raid where I'm tanking a heroic boss in Mogoshan Walls, but because of my raid leader, I couldn't film that, because he said that I'm a DPS and we need your DPS, and you're not gonna tank, you're DPS, you're Warlock, you can tank. And I'm like, oh my god, please just let me tank one boss in Mogoshan Walls, which is so easy anyway. But he said no. So I got one favor for you guys. You can do me one favor, and that is to write a simple comment below saying that saying to my raid leader that you want me to tank a heroic boss. Just say that. My raid leader's name is Fastnik. You just write, Fastnik, we want to see Ignocia tank heroic boss in Mogoshan Walls. If you just could say that in the comments, he will read it. I promise he will read it. And when he see enough comments, I believe he will let me tank one heroic boss. So please guys, please do it. It could be so awesome, and I could get a video off, maybe more videos off, with me tanking in Mogoshan Walls. Maybe not in Heart of Fear and stuff like that, where it's a bit harder, but at least in Mogoshan Walls, I want to show you that Warlock tanking is actually viable. So yeah, see you guys, and hope you enjoyed the guide, and hope you will enjoy the video that I'm gonna show you now.